T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Why did you let him kill me? It was the clown. Make the clown go away.
What was that? A stray radio signal? Your own mind playing tricks on you? Or was it something else? Those are the exact questions that kickstart any real paranormal investigation. This isn't about jumping at shadows, it's about methodically finding the light switch. This is your first step into a world where history and technology collide to explain the unexplainable. Welcome to the unseen world.
It doesn't take a paranormal investigator to realize this building is haunted by its past. Broken toys litter the floor while old wheelchairs rust in corners beneath grimy, peeling walls. The whole building has a dark, eerie air to it, making any visitor aware they are treading on ground sullied by decades of horrors. The once stately building was originally a Lutheran boys' school, and it was a terrible place to go to class as bullying was encouraged within the increasingly competitive student body. As a result of the hostile learning environment, a number of its students died by suicide. After the school was shut down, St. Albans opened in 1916 as a psychiatric infirmary, and it was supposed to be a better alternative to the other asylums scattered throughout the United States, and boasted a rooftop garden, bowling alley, and even a small farm. But conditions were far from idyllic for the patients who were confined to the sanatorium. The vulnerable patients were subjected to cruel and inhumane experimental treatments, which often left them permanently disabled or resulted in death from lobotomies or insulin-induced comas. Others were shocked via electroconvulsive therapy. Still others were completely wrapped mummy-style in towels, drenched with ice-cold water, or left to soak in the tub for days at a time during routine hydrotherapy sessions. The sanatorium was ill-equipped to deal with the thousands of patients that entered for treatment. By 1945, its staff-to-patient ratio was 48 to 6,509. And the desperately small staff and inhumane living conditions led the building to witness further suicides within its already grim walls. By the late 20th century, the sanatorium was on a steady decline, and it finally closed in the 1990s. And according to paranormal investigators and the occasional curious visitor, not every patient seems to have left the building. St. Albans is supposedly among the most active paranormal locations on the East Coast. Given the number of wrongful deaths that occurred within, it's easy to imagine why this would become a ghostly hangout spot. and people have reported seeing full-bodied apparitions, shadowy figures, and levitating objects while exploring the abandoned building. And one spirit has even been known to whistle.
There's that whistle. You hear it? Huh? That whistle just came out of that.
Others claim to hear voices or even feel fleeting physical contact with unseen beings. One entity said to frequent St. Albans is the infamous Goat Man, and we believe he is an evil spirit.
Are you an evil spirit? Yes. Yeah, I thought so. You like to present yourself as a child, don't you? Yes, thank you.
Alright, well.
But you're not a child, are you? Demon? Yes, thank you.
Am I invited today?
Nope, we're just drunk. Nope, we're just drunk.
Oh, you guys are drunk? It's Halloween, you better be.
That was awesome.
Eli, here's my friend.
That was as clear as it could be.
I know.
Ooh. Duh. Where'd it go?
What?
This thing just come flying at me and it just vanished like quick. In front of me, I watched it come at me through the camera screen. Alright, is there anything? It looked like a spider.
A big
In 1928, a woman named Eleanor was admitted to an asylum just like this one. Her diagnosis? Religious excitement. Her final years were spent behind these walls, and some people say she never really left. These decaying halls and peeling paint aren't just ruins. They're monuments to forgotten suffering. They were built with the promise of healing, but what they often delivered was pure horror. This brutal history has fueled generations of paranormal claims. Stories of shadow figures and disembodied voices echo in the emptiness. But are these hauntings just campfire stories, or are they the last desperate testimonies of the forgotten? Today, we're digging into the historical records and walking these same corridors to ask a critical question. What really happens when history and hauntings collide? Believe it or not, these institutions didn't start as places of terror. Many were born from a genuinely progressive idea in the 19th century called moral treatment. Visionaries like Dr. Thomas Kirkbride believed that beautiful architecture and serene landscapes could actually help heal the mind. The Kirkbride plan called for sprawling, ornate buildings with plenty of sunlight and fresh air designed to be sanctuaries. But that compassionate vision quickly crumbled. Chronic underfunding and an overwhelming flood of patients turned these sanctuaries into grim warehouses. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia, for instance, was designed for 250 people, but was crammed with over 2,400 by the 1950s. Overcrowding led to unsanitary conditions, violence, and a swift return to the very cruelty moral treatment was meant to fix. Patients were subjected to hours and restraints, and neglect became the norm, and the dream of healing had become a nightmare of confinement. Every corner of these buildings tells a story. What were supposed to be restful patient wards became scenes of absolute chaos. The sheer number of people confined to small spaces bred desperation and violence. But the history gets even darker when you step into the treatment rooms. This is where controversial procedures were performed in the name of a cure. Ice baths, electroshock therapy, and most infamously, the lobotomy were common. Overwhelmed and desperate, doctors saw these brutal interventions as a quick way to manage unruly patients. And at places like Trans-Allegheny, a staggering number of these procedures were performed, with one doctor, Walter Freeman, conducting hundreds of lobotomies across West Virginia. These surgeries didn't just sever parts of the brain. They severed a person's identity, their very soul. The goal was to silence the illness, but all too often it silenced the person entirely. And for those who died within these walls, whether from disease, neglect, or the treatments themselves, dignity was a rare luxury. Their stories often ended in unmarked graves, or in some cases their bodies were sent to medical schools for study, a final anonymous contribution. When you hear these historical truths, the paranormal claims start to make a chilling kind of sense. If you believe the stories of the forgotten deserve to be heard, take a moment to subscribe for more investigations into the shadows of our history. This is where the line between fact and folklore begins to blur. The history is documented, but what about the hauntings? At Penhurst State School, a place notorious for its horrific patient abuse, investigators and visitors report hearing disembodied voices and feeling the touch of an unseen hand. At Trans-Allegheny, people on ghost tours claim to see shadow figures and hear unexplained screams in the halls where so much suffering took place. One of the most well-known spirits is said to be a little girl named Lily, who was supposedly born inside the Trans-Allegheny Asylum and died there from pneumonia, never knowing the outside world. Visitors leave toys in what is believed to be her room and have sworn they've seen them move on their own. So what do you think? When a strange voice is recorded on an EVP recorder in an old treatment room, is it just radio interference? Or is it an echo of a person who was once subjected to horrors we can barely imagine? These paranormal accounts, whether you believe them or not, have become one of the only ways for stories of these forgotten patients to be told. The buildings may be decaying, but the memories of what happened here is very much alive. The history of these asylums is a profound tragedy. They stand as a solemn reminder of a time when society chose to lock away its most vulnerable citizens. The question of whether they are haunted by spirits is something you have to answer for yourself. But there's no question that they are haunted by their history. The pain, the suffering, and the injustice that occurred within these walls have left an undeniable stain. And perhaps the ghostly whispers and fleeting apparitions aren't just a legend, but a legacy. The final testimony of thousands of forgotten souls still asking us to remember them. And that's definitely something to think about. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for listening.
There's a spirit that's trying to protect all the other spirits. Did you watch the Dead Files thing? There's a spirit that's trying to set up a protective zone for all the other spirits. I think it's the doctor. And he said, don't talk to them, they're crazy.
What kind of horses do ghosts ride? Well, nightmares.
If you want us to leave, would you cut that light back on and I'll get out of your space and I won't bother you anymore? I'm never sure. You do? Okay. Thank you.